Is overdraft protection a scam or a legitimate business service? The government agency charged with protecting Americans from unfair, deceptive, or abusive financial practices are proposing a set of rules that would limit how banks charge overdraft fees. A trade organization that represents banks and credit unions complains that Americans value and appreciate overdraft protection and rely on the service to make ends meet. Americans pay nearly $8 billion in overdraft fees to their banks every year. That's an average of 2 overdraft instances for every adult in the United States. But if Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos never overdraft their accounts, somebody else is overdrafting more than twice. In fact, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau believes that 23 million households overdraft their accounts in a year. That means that people who are overdrafting are doing it more than 9 times in a calendar year. Which is it? Is it a money grab by the banks to prey on the most economically vulnerable in our society? Or is it a service that households who live paycheck to paycheck need to keep from bouncing checks and incurring late fees? Let's look at how overdraft actually works. Let's say you only have $50 in your checking account and a $150 cell phone bill tries to draw on that account. The bank would allow the payment to go through and charge you $35 for the service. They would take the $100 you owe them out of your next deposit, or you can transfer funds from your savings account. Overdraft fees are usually charged by each instance. So if your utility bill comes through before money replenishes that account, you are hit with another $35 overdraft fee. Some banks limit the number of overdraft fees that you can incur in a day. Others do not. So it's absolutely possible that you could see a cascading number of these overdraft fees all at once. In fact, a scandal from a few years back was that banks were intentionally processing debits that come in all at the same time in an order that would maximize overdraft fees. I don't think banks do this anymore, but it does show how overdraft fees can come in clusters. Those folks who are hit with 12 overdraft fees in a year might not be irresponsibly getting hit every single month. They might be hit 4 times in the same day, 3 different times during the year. So is the bank loaning you money when you use overdraft protection? Technically, yes. What else would you call it if someone gives you access to money for some time and expect you to pay it back? Legally, they don't call it that. Why? Well, if the service is lending, they are obligated to disclose the cost of that lending as an APR on your loan. And that leads to some very uncomfortable conversations. First of all, you can't even calculate an APR unless you have a set rate, a set borrowed amount, and a set time period. In the case of overdraft, you don't have a set time. The time before you replenish your account can be minutes, hours, or days. And if you think of overdraft as lending, you might be outraged. Remember our cell phone bill example where the bank spotted you $100 for 2 days and charged you the $35 overdraft fee? If we call that a loan and adhere to the federal disclosure laws, I would have to tell you that the APR on that transaction was over 6,000%. So yeah, overdraft is a fee, not an interest rate. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau proposes a set of rules that would limit overdraft fees for the largest banks and credit unions in the country. The Bureau is suggesting that banks have to use one of 3 methods of setting the price of an overdraft occurrence. The first is that they can only charge the consumer exactly what it costs for them to maintain the program. This would not allow them to make a profit or mark up the fees. The second option is that they can take a federally mandated standard price, which has not yet been set. They suggest that the fee could be between $3 and $14. The final option is to turn overdraft into a line of credit product that falls in line with truth in lending laws that would require them to disclose the cost of borrowing. The CFPB has been working on these rules for 10 years, and clearly some banks have seen the writing on the wall. In 2022, Citibank eliminated their overdraft service, and Bank of America has slashed its overdraft fees. I think there's no question that overdraft is another instance of how being poor is expensive. The question is whether it's a service that they want or need, or whether it is one that we live with because we either pay overdraft fees to the bank or late fees to our creditors. What do you think? Is overdraft an important program or just a money grab? The CFPB is collecting public comments on its proposed rules until April 1st. If you have an opinion, you should let them know. I'll put a link to their comments page in the description below. Thanks for watching, and consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel.